I've had a great time with the Colorado Rockies franchise this year, and we're almost ready for year 3 to get underway. Today I'm recapping the second offseason I streamed last Friday. You can watch it, it's around 3 hours of streaming, but I'm recapping everything important in this video. I came into this offseason with a plan, and at the end of the year I kind of realized that between Javi Baez, Garrett Hampson, and Brendan Rodgers, I didn't think any had proven that they could be the star we're building this team around. Rodgers and Hampson are younger, they're developing, but did not take a leap this season, and Baez hit a lot of home runs, but that's really it. So I knew in free agency we had to be more active. So welcome to the second offseason of the series, everybody. We get underway with a little Hall of Fame induction of Robinson Cano. Our AA team loves that. And then we had to hire a new hitting coach. Our previous one had retired, so I offered a contract to Donnie Cervala, who would give us a contact and power boost, and he accepted. Contact, on base, discipline, those became the focuses of what I wanted to add to the team this year. As far as free agents, I didn't end up trying to re-sign most of these players. Adam Duvall, not after last season. Elias Diaz, I have really liked in this series, but I felt like the salary he was looking for was a bit steep when he was our second catcher. I did want to bring back Scott Oberg. The pitching was a strength of the team a year ago, and I didn't want to have too much turnover in that department. We also had Michael Givens exercise his player option for this year. So he gets a $5 million salary. If he were a free agent, I don't think I'd give him a $5 million salary after he took a step back this season. So he will be on the team this year, but likely not the closer. Then we have free agency getting underway. Some big names available. Aaron Judge, Aaron Nola, Jose Ramirez. For me, I didn't want to target anybody who would get this top tier salary, and ideally I'd like to go after some players who were 26 or 27, but that's just not the way MLB free agency works. A lot of these players get big contracts in their late 20s or early 30s, and you just hope that they can stay healthy and keep producing. MLB free agency is incredibly risky, and we're not one of the higher budget teams, so when we give out a contract, we really can't afford for it to not work out. But there were a lot of players that I still had interest in, even if they were 29, 30 years old. I just wanted to make sure that the offer would be right and they could bring the impact I was looking for. And Byron Buxton, I'm a Twins fan. I love Buxton, my favorite player in the league. But his 91 overall has a lot to do with his elite defense and speed. He's not an elite hitter in our franchise here. And I also didn't want to sign anybody who was signed to the qualified offer or had received that offer. I don't want to give up my second round pick right now at this stage of the rebuild. So that limited me just a little bit. Ketel Marte, he would have been maybe my top target if he hadn't received the qualifying offer. So instead, I had a lot of interest in Brandon Nimmo, and then I had some interest as well in Trea Turner because he wasn't getting a huge offer from Nationals, and he can play, obviously, 3 infield spots plus center field, and he's got this all-around skill set. So Turner became one of the first targets for me here. 29 years old, 266 average a year ago, 21 home runs. So not elite power, not elite on base, but pretty good at everything. And really, I think like best case scenario, if a guy like Garrett Hampson were to develop, you'd end up with ratings very similar to Trea Turner. Then we go back to Brandon Nimmo, who has 98 discipline, a rating I had no idea we were so bad at. He's been great at reaching base, very high contact, high order player who also offers a bit of power. I felt like Nimmo for one of our corner outfield spots would be a really good fit for around $10 million. Now, I know the pitching was really good last season. Andrew Heaney, John Gray, a lot of these guys are in their 30s and regressing slightly, and I didn't want to feel like we were done there. Luis Severino, to me, was an excellent fit. 28 years old, 87 overall, a better fastball than anybody we have in the rotation, and he wouldn't be a $30 million a year player. We're getting up there, obviously, going into $100 million range for 5 seasons, but that would allow us to still have some flexibility to go after more players. I looked at some more bullpen pitchers, but the really good ones, they get huge offers or have huge demands. Tyler Duffy, 32 years old, he's not interested for anything under like $13 million, and that just didn't seem like something we could pull off. Taylor Rogers, also from the Twins, has some closing experience here and there, and $10 million is a bit more reasonable for him. After that, I took a look at third base because I haven't been totally sold on Josh Fuentes either, another player who regressed this season, and he's at age 30. So while I like a lot of these players, nobody's job is really safe on the team because we're just not that good. I think we have a lot of complementary players, and we should try to push everybody we can this year. A couple more players I had interest in. Tim Anderson. I wasn't too worried about having too many shortstops because of the position flexibility. I was really considering him if some of these other offers fell through. And then I also had interest in Miguel Rojas. High plate vision, good contact versus lefties, can play the entire infield. Another option was looking at potential trade targets. I feel like Austin Riley would be kind of tough to go after. There were some other third basemen, though, that I felt like would be good fits. Ty France plays first, second, third base, 3 years of experience. You get 3 years of team control. But ultimately, I wanted to start this offseason with these 3 offers for Turner, Severino, and Nimmo, and then go through all of our arbitration offers and pending free agents to see how much money we really had. So the renewable deals didn't lead to anything too exciting. I pretty much brought everybody back. We have Tuki Toussaint, Dom Nunez, Jonathan Daza, a lot of $500,000 salaries that don't affect the budget too much, and then a handful of players who were arbitration eligible. And almost everybody here was signed, like Chichi Gonzalez, Derek Rodriguez. I did offer arbitration to most of these players, but most just took the offer that I had sent. Derek Rodriguez wasn't looking for a massive salary. Raimel Tapia looking for 3.6 a year. Still really like him, and he was excellent in year 2. We offer him the 2.8 arbitration. Jose Peraza didn't have a huge role, but I felt like for under $2 million, he's still good to have in the organization. Then Austin Gomber, still thinking long relief is kind of his role going forward. We give him an offer. And then Robert Stevenson, again, solid out of the bullpen last year. I was hoping to not have too much turnover in that department. So here are the offers once again. Potentially big moves for the Colorado Rockies if these would go through. So we sim into the first couple days of free agency, and we do get a deal done. Luis Severino coming to the Rockies, 5 years, $103 million. I did promise him he would be the ace of this team, and that is going to be the expectation. Really excited to have Severino on the team, and I think that's going to make our rotation even better this season and a lot deeper. Moving on, we see some more players getting massive offers. Tyler Duffy, just so much here for a reliever. So I began to look a couple tiers lower. Alex Colomé, trying to ignore how his 2021 season in real life has gone with the Twins. I think he could be just a solid middle relief option for us, under $5 million. I think that's a lot more reasonable for us. Still really like Taylor Rogers and was willing to give him around a $10 million salary. By promising him the closer role, though, that made it a little bit easier to have an offer at $9 million. So we sim ahead again, Ken Giles, 3 years, $21 million. That's $7 a year to the Twins. And then Tyler Duffy ends up going to the Mets, 3 years, $34 million. The Yankees make one of the biggest signings, 9 years, $181 million for Wilson Contreras at age 30. That's a massive contract. I guess Gary Sanchez is going somewhere else pretty soon, I would imagine. Still, we have so many big names that have not signed, and Aaron Judge has interest from the Mets and the Yankees. That was one of my favorite developments here in free agency. And then we move ahead a day. Trea Turner is coming to the Colorado Rockies, and the plan is to play him in center field with that 98 speed and probably have him bat leadoff. So now you look at how this team has developed. We've obviously traded Trevor Story. He got the huge deal from the Braves. Basically, his contract value is similar to Severino's and Trea Turner's combined. Plus, we are ahead of season and further along in our development. This left us with around $21 million in budget, and we also got Brandon Nimmo under contract. Great start to the offseason getting those 3 additions. And then Aaron Judge decides he wants to be Patrick Mahomes' best friend. He's going to Kansas City on a $300 million deal. Not the Mets, not the Yankees. The most random signing, I think, the entire free agent period. I didn't even know the Royals could afford a contract like that. Then we get to the next tier of free agents, and these players start to get some pretty big offers. You look at some of these players and you think, oh, maybe we can get them for a cheap deal, and then they get these massive offers that you never saw coming. That's how it was for me. Still looking at relievers. Aroldis Chapman, 1 year, $5 million, might get the job done, but he's regressed. And on top of that, you have some control concerns. Walk per 9, 6 a year ago, 5.7 this last year. Taylor Rogers, to me, just a lot more reliable. Maybe not as high of upside, but pretty high upside. A reliable closer at the least. Coming off a really good year. So we had to top the Diamondbacks, obviously. Sonny Gray gets a deal from the Cardinals. Edwin Diaz, big deal from San Francisco. I'm sure we'll see him at some point this year. And then I find out that we can no longer afford Raimel Tapia's contract because I've just signed too many players. What put us over the edge was Taylor Rogers joining the Rockies to be our closer. A 1-year, $10.7 million deal is where we ended up. But it also brought us to only $2.6 million in available budget, and Tapia's arbitration would likely top that. Joey Gallo gets the big deal going to the Orioles, and the Red Sox respond by signing Byron Buxton. Jose Barrios, he ends up going to the Miami Marlins. One signing that surprised me because he hadn't had offers listed before was Whit Merrifield, getting 3 years, $30 million suddenly from the Diamondbacks. Then Tim Anderson gets a deal from the Tigers for 5 years, $45 million. That takes us to the Rule 5 draft, and to me, there was nothing for us to do here. Took a look at who was available because I love the Rule 5 draft, as I have done a Rule 5 rebuild now on the second channel, and it's a lot of fun, and there's opportunity here, but I didn't think that it really fit us this season. So we end up not drafting anybody, but check this out. The first 4 teams obviously made selections. A couple more players go in the first round. Usually it's a done deal after like a round, maybe 2. But not this year. The Pirates take 3 players and decide why not make it 4. So 4 out of 26 players on their active roster are going to be Rule 5 pickups. I think we all know the Pittsburgh Pirates are one of the cheapest organizations in Major League Baseball. This is entirely on brand for them to just get 4 players that have to be on their team this year or go back to their original team, and it's basically not going to affect their budget. The Yankees lost Aaron Judge, so they deal Luke Voit and Davy Garcia for Luis Robert from the White Sox. That's a huge development for them. And then Raimel Tapia wins his arbitration hearing, meaning we are $800,000 in the hole budget-wise. And there was only one way out that I saw, and that was going to be trading Charlie Blackmon. And I still had interest in some of these available third basemen. I used the trade finder to see who would be easier to go after. Alec Bohm was an option, but I mean, France was so much easier to acquire, so I didn't even try for Alec Bohm. And I felt like their ratings were fairly similar. Bohm, I think, maybe a bit more upside. So I obviously wanted to send the Mariners Charlie Blackmon in this trade, and then outfielder Jamison Hanna got us pretty close to making this deal done, and maybe I could have given them like one of the lowest rated players on the team, but I decided to make this trade what I felt to be reasonable. They're taking on Charlie's salary. We're getting Ty France. We're sending them 2 high 60s B potential players. Brandon Gold, we've done an episode with him before. I think it's a fair deal. And we get Ty France out of it to play maybe third, maybe first. I love how versatile our team is because it doesn't matter who plays where. I had some interest still in signing Miguel Rojas for spring training, but he ended up going to Baltimore. So this is basically us going into spring training. We bring Trea Turner to Colorado. I think he's a great fit for Coors Field defensively and offensively. I love getting Luis Severino signed to the deal. Taylor Rogers from Colorado. He's coming back home. Brandon Nimmo. He's from Wyoming, which is pretty close to Colorado. And I'm excited to see how this team can play. Alex Colome's on the team. I think expectations should be pretty high. But let's say it doesn't work out as planned. I have started to see, okay, if we're not good this year, we're probably trading Javi Baez. I don't expect him to pick up his option this year. I think he would test free agency. And I feel like teams still value him a lot. So if we want to trade Baez at any point, we should get some pretty interesting prospects out of it. And the Rays would be one of the top teams I think I'd be looking at trading with. They've acquired so many infielders in this series. It's unbelievable. We went through it in stream. It was like Willy Adames. They got Bobby Witt from the Royals, Jazz Chisholm. They still have Wander Franco. Like, it's unbelievable the infielders they have on that team. I wasn't quite finished, though. You're never done adding players to the team. Carlos Santana is a perfect fit for what this team needs, which is a disciplined hitter that just gets on base. On top of that, I mean, he can play catcher if you need him to. Then there was Bubba Starling. I felt like for his ratings, he was definitely worth signing to a minor league contract. 70 overall, 99 arm. The chat in stream was telling me that he had a chance to be a quarterback, I think, for Nebraska coming out of high school. So we signed him to a contract. We offered to Carlos Santana. And then getting the 40-man all set, Elijah Diori, a chance to make the team this year and be that backup catcher. Maybe compete for starting catcher. And then this was the first lineup that I put together with the new roster. Trea Turner and Brandon Nimmo with Raimel Tapia all at the very top. Those are the best on-base players that I think we have. Then you have some power with Baez, McMahon, and France. This gives us a pretty strong bench and is going to lead to a really interesting spring training competition. I wanted to take a look at a few things here before we wrap it up. Luis Severino, here are his ratings on his pitches, and his fastball is going to be the best fastball I think on the entire team. 99 control, it gets to the upper 90s. Really excited to pitch with him. Fastball, slider, both look really solid. And this is just good to know what pitches are good for each pitcher you have. Then I went to David Geronimo. Looks like people wanted me to edit his appearance a little bit. So we made the glove purple, black with the silver laces. I love that glove. And then we change up the cleats a little bit, give him the high socks as well. And then the batting stance creator in this game is fantastic. And you've probably noticed like that clipping, the bat going into his helmet. We're going to take care of that right here, make sure that's not so distracting. And then we have Mickey Littlefield. And I want to start doing this every offseason for certain pitchers, but I felt like he could use a fourth pitch. He throws a fastball, slider, changeup, and we added a 12-6 to his pitching arsenal. Now, I obviously had to add some ratings here to it. So I looked at his ratings and tried to put together something that I felt was fair for him coming up with a brand new pitch. So the curveball's not going to have great control or break right off the bat, but it'll be there as he develops going forward. Carlos Santana did end up joining the team, and we'll see what kind of a role he's able to get, but I love that catcher is an option for him, and that would definitely give Diori some competition then. He hasn't been walking as much in recent years, but the main thing is I just want him to be an on-base player. And then David Geronimo, with us making this roster a lot more competitive, I'm not sure if he has a great chance, but he's going to get it regardless. Geronimo is added to the 40-man, and he's going to play in spring training. The most likely outcome is him starting the season at AAA, but I don't think it's going to be too long before he's at the big league level. And that, everybody, takes us to the end of the offseason. Spring training is coming up next. A lot of competition on this team. So many starting spots up for grabs. And I think that we have a much better team, and this to me felt like the right time to get a bit more aggressive after winning 68 games a year ago, having a really good pitching staff, but we had to make some changes to the offense, and I think we did that today. What did you think of the offseason? Let me know down below, and let me know what you're excited to see out of spring training and year 3 with the Rockies. Have a great day, everybody. I'll be back with more of the Rockies soon.